Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Will County Planning and Zoning's regular meeting for July 1st. We're going to call to order and ask everybody to rise for the pledge. Roger, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Hugh Stippen,
Here.
John Kiefner,
Here.
Kimberly Mitchell. Here. Roger Bettenhausen.
Here.
Matthew Gala.
Here.
Karen Warwick. Luis Navarrete.
Okay, we have a quorum. Before we go on to approval of the minutes, I'm going to ask everybody who's speaking tonight to raise their right hand and swear in. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I do. I thank you. Also, anyone who has their cell phone on, please turn it down or put it in airplane mode so it doesn't interrupt the meeting. Thank you. I do it with mine too. I presume everyone's had a chance to read the minutes, so I'd like a motion for approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay. First case tonight is case ZC-25-031/V-25-055 and V-25-106. This case takes place in Moni, Illinois, and is going to be presented by Marguerite Kenny. Good evening, ma'am.
Okay, give me 1 second while I pull this up. Okay, so zoning case ZC 25031, like you said, actually takes place in Green Garden Township. The property is 26409 South 80th Avenue in Moni. The owner and applicant is Roy Erickson. And the applicant is requesting 2 variances to bring the property into conformance to construct a detached garage that's 10 feet from the property line. So the property is zoned A2 and it's shown on the screen. It's outlined in blue. It's located on the eastern side of 80th Avenue. It's approximately 630 feet south of Bruns Road. The property is 5 acres with 165 feet of lot frontage, and it's zoned A2. Mapping and platting shows that this parcel was created back in December of 1974, at which time it was zoned A1, and it was considered a zoning conforming lot. And then in 1978, part of the county-wide comprehensive rezoning, this parcel was rezoned to A2, at which time the A2 district also required a minimum lot area of 2.5 acres and have a minimum lot frontage of 300 feet. So it became non-conforming. And these are the requirements that are typical of the A2 zoning district today, which the A2 district is a grandfathered district. So nobody can rezone to A2. So looking at the aerial, the township assessor records show that there's an existing 1-story house that was built back in 1978. There is some floodplain on the property that's located on the eastern half of the property. And the property has a natural drainage course that stems from the south branch of Fort Creek. That basically is the flood zone in the property. The property is just east of the Deer Creek facility planning area. Looking at the Plata survey, this is a smaller version, but you can see the red outline on the screen. That is the proposed location of the pole building that would be 10 feet from the property line. The existing driveway runs along that southern property line about 10 feet. And that's where the applicant would like to propose that detached garage. So just a couple looks of the sketch plan of the proposed property, the proposed building, and then some building elevations. The property would be meeting the height requirements. So this is just looking at the property. It's looking west along the existing driveway in towards the property where that proposed garage would be. This is looking southeast, and you can see that the neighbor has a detached garage also encroaching into the setback. This is looking west towards the frontage from the driveway. Looking northeast at the property from 80th Avenue. And then looking towards the rear of the property. And the proposed location of that accessory structure. And then looking along 80th Avenue. So the criteria by which variances are evaluated are shown on the screen. The analysis is in the staff report, but to briefly summarize, staff found that there is a unique circumstance. The property was purchased by this applicant in 1991, already as a non-conforming A2 parcel that had a single-family residence on it. Staff finds if the variances are granted, they would not alter the essential character of the locality. The subject or the southern neighboring parcel, the 26425 South 80th Avenue, had an approval for an administrative adjustment for lot frontage back in 1999. The county stopped doing that for deficient A1, A2 parcels and required variances to pursue forward. And there are 14 parcels along 80th Avenue in this area that would be subject to a similar request going forward. In terms of this, again, that southern parcel, you saw the detached garage that is built within approximate 10 feet based on GIS measurements from their northern property line, which would be in close proximity to what the applicant's proposing. Staff also finds that the owner's hardship is due to physical surroundings of the existing property configuration. As mentioned, the 14 other parcels. And then regarding, building the detached garage, the applicant will be subject to get a building permit, and the county's codes and ordinances that would apply to this type of development would apply. So it would mitigate any chance of negatively impacting the area. So staff is recommending approval of both variances, and of the agencies notified, there were no objections. The health department sign off on their permit for the detached garage would be required. And they commented that that would be based on if they were meeting the health department guidance for separation from septic and well systems. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have no questions. Has anyone on the board questions? Thank you very much. Are there any concerned citizens or objectors to this case here tonight? There are not. Is the owner or agent here tonight for this property? Okay, thank you, sir. There are no concerned citizens, and staff is recommending a passing of this. Would you like us to just go ahead and take a vote, or would you like to come down and speak? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, zoning case 25-031, approval of variance for minimum side yard setback south side from 20 feet to 10 feet.
Second.
I have a motion, a second, may I have a roll call?
Roger Bettenhausen.
Yes.
Louis Navarette.
Yes.
Matthew Gala.
Yes.
Kimberly Mitchell.
Yes.
John Kiefner.
Yes.
Chairman Hugh Stippen.
Yes.
Same case 031, variance 25-106, approval of variance for minimum lot frontage from 300 foot to 165 foot.
Second.
Again, a motion, a second, may I have a roll call?
Roger Bettenhausen.
Yes.
Louis Navarette.
Yes.
Matthew Gala.
Yes.
Kimberly Mitchell.
Yes.
John Kiefner.
Yes.
Chairman Hugh Stippen.
Yes.
Passes.
You've passed, sir. The next case tonight is ZC 25-046/M 25-004. And Ashlyn Kirby will be our presenter. Good evening.
Good evening. One second, let me get this pulled up. Alrighty. So for ZC 25046, a full list of the owners are included in the staff report, but the agent is Gregory Clark of J. Clark Co. Inc. The applicant is requesting approval of map amendment from A1 to E2 to allow for it to be divided in the future. There you go. Property is located in Green Garden Township. The village of Frankfurt is about 0.5 miles north of the property. Property is within the Frankfurt Facility Planning Area. Per their 2040 future land use map, the property is shown as single-family detached residential. As the applicant owns 2 lots under common ownership, staff considers them a zoning lot. Subject property is zoned A1, being 81.032 acres combined with 1,324 feet of frontage along 88th Avenue. The applicant met with staff on March 20th to discuss pursuing a map amendment and going through the subdivision in the future. To officially divide the property, approval of a subdivision will be required. This is the surrounding zonings showing the E2 and the E2 subdivision directly to the south and the east of the property. This is the subject property outlined in red within the, this is the Frankfurt Comprehensive Future Land Use Plan showing the property for single-family detached residential. This is the plat of survey for the northern property and plat of survey for the southern property. This is facing north looking down 88th Avenue. Facing south looking down 88th Avenue. Facing southeast looking at the subject property. Facing northwest looking at the subject property. Facing east looking at the subject property. And then this is an aerial image of the subject property via Connect Explorer. Full analysis can be found in your staff reports, but to summarize, in staff's professional opinion, the proposed residential use would be compatible with the existing residential uses in the vicinity. Within unincorporated Will County, staff found an estate residential subdivision zoned E2 directly to the south and the east of the property. Additionally, there are parcels directly west of the property that are zoned E2. In staff's professional opinion, the rezoning would be compatible with the existing E2 zoning found in the surrounding area. If the map amendment is denied, only permitted uses in the A1 zoning district would be allowed. Of the agencies notified, no one objected. The Village of Frankfurt provided comments which were included in the staff report, stating that the E2 zoning is partially consistent with the future 2024 comprehensive plan. Also, that the applicant should be aware of the village's mile-and-a-half review authority for any proposed subdivision. The full comment received is included in the staff report. After the staff report was posted, staff received comments from the village or the Green Garden Township stating that on May 12th, the Green Garden Township Board recommended approval with a vote of 5-0. Staff found out the full email received as a memo today. With that being said, staff is recommending approval of the map amendment, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have no questions. Anyone on the board have questions?
I would just ask, is there a pending solar farm to the north of this property? I believe we heard a case, but I don't know if it ever finalized. It may not have budded. I can't remember the specifics. Can you, Mr. Bettenhausen? We did about 2 years ago. It must have collapsed. That case must not have went through. Because they had 2 years to get it going, I think, permitted. So it must not be happening. I am in the right spot, aren't I? Or you don't? No.
They're scattered all over.
But I seem to remember one right there.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, honestly.
Where this is a rezoning case, but if they decide to subdivide in the future,
Mhm.
they have to come back in again for,
Yeah, so basically what I've been explaining this as is basically a two-part thing. So this is the first phase where they're just looking to rezone the entire property to a zoning district where it may be compatible with what they're looking at dividing it as in the future. So Right now, I've talked to the applicant. They don't have any official plans as to how many lots they're creating. I think the applicant is here. He can basically go over this more than I can. But at this time, there's no official division plans. I don't think he knows how many lots. At least we haven't received anything. But if he did want to divide it in the future, we would have to review the division with our chief subdivision engineer and see if there's any like Plat Act exemptions. Otherwise, I believe it would have to go through a subdivision process.
There would be roads involved and things like that with streets for a development this size.
Depending on what he wants to do. I mean, one of the Plat Act exemptions, I believe it's like if you don't create another road. So if they just divided us into like 3, I don't know how many acre lots, 20-acre lots, it may be exempt from a subdivision, but I don't know if that's what the applicant wants to do. We just would have to review it internally.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Are there any concerned citizens or objectors to this case here tonight? One, is there any more? Okay, so I'll give you a chance to speak as soon as the owner or agent is spoken. May I speak to the primary agent? I think it says Gregory Clark is here. Yes, please come up.
My name is Gregory Clark. I own a company called J. Clark Company Inc. in real estate. It's in Frankfurt. We are now at our 49th year as of July 1st. So next year is our 50th year. I've lived in Green Garden for 62 years. Where I was raised was almost exactly 1 mile away from the site. I've been involved in Green Garden in the formation of it I've been doing real estate for 40 years myself. So I would say that's probably in the 1980s. The property we're looking to rezone east to estate residential, which is conforming with what I believe that the township has been looking for, a low density. This actually caps my density at 2.5 acre parcels. So your limitations as number of lots is probably a maximum of 33 for 80 acres, and it would probably be less than that. I do not have a design plan which have actually gone through the process and accepted at this point. I'm really market driven. Neighboring property owners to the south live in Aaronwood. Some of them have contacted me. Some of them are looking for a 5-acre site. One person actually said, well, I want 10. Another party asked me if I would sell them a couple 2.5-acre parcels. We're not at that stage yet. This is the first phase of my endeavor. And we will ultimately, in any subdivisions ordinance, we will have to, if we go non-Plat Act. So, and I've kept that open, but it really depends on the market. So if the market is telling me just build all 2.5-acre parcels, well, guess what? That's what we'll do. But it's market driven. I am a believer in the large lots. There are in Green Garden Township right now, very few, if any, available. I think there's one available. It's on the corner of Mony Manhattan Road and 88th Avenue, which is really more of a commercial site to begin with. So I don't think that would be a site that would be considered similar. I think there's a need for this. This will be probably, I'm going to say, the first subdivision if we go that, which I think we're going to, at least part of this is going to go that way. This will be the first subdivision in Green Garden, I think, since 2006, 2007. So, and if you even think in the county, it may be very well one of the first, if not the first, from that period of time. So, any questions for me? I'd be glad to try to answer them for you.
I have no questions, Mr. Clark. Anyone else on the board have questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Would you take a seat right up front? We're gonna have an objector and we'll let you answer him. Hey, you come down, please, sir. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Ralph Dietz. I'm one of the Green Garden trustees. So basically my concern, as it went through planning, his concept plan had no design to it. There's no, as it shows up here, it just shows the original 240-acre spots. There's no new design, which he states too, that he doesn't know yet. So we're not against the A1 to E2. We're just against the unknown future that comes about. So,
Keep an open mind because you may be happy with it.
yeah, well, I know. I mean, the 5-acre ones, originally he was saying he's coming off at 80th Avenue, 88th Avenue, which with 180-foot spots. That would be 1210 deep. So that would take it down to through Aaronwood, that St. James Gate. So we assume that he's going to put in a road. And then to get to that rear property, which is probably another, maybe he has to worry about the creek right there. So it's probably another 6 lots. He's going to have to provide access in and out. So, I mean, I know he wants to save money, so he doesn't want to do that. But we just don't want to be down the road, find out that, hey, he has the 5 lots on 88th Avenue, and then we have a trapped lot in back and nobody can get to. So,
But you have no objections to the zoning change?
no, I don't. But as long as we have, you can kind of, like Ashland says, it'll go to another subdivision meeting and stuff that we would have input on that.
Anything he does in the future after this has to go through a whole process again. So
Which is fine with us.
you get to see it too.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Have
We have
you-
another person that would like to speak. Yep.
Have you signed in? Yes, you may speak. I just kind of, when I ask how many, I always just trying to count so that I know what my time schedule is.
So my name is Doug Swanson. I'm out of Wilmington, Illinois on Mantino Road. And I have one important question here. If that property goes from agricultural, which is about maybe 15,000 an acre, 20 grand an acre, and he rezones it and becomes worth 35,000, if not 100,000 an acre, does that tax base start immediately upon this approval?
No. No, the tax base goes upon the assessor assessing it after it's received occupancy permits. So it's a while down the road.
So it's not an instantaneous issue for him to go from agricultural tax
No,
where the property value like quadruples in value by just a gavel drop.
We verified this in a previous case with the staff nodding and everything. He said, the zoning of a piece of property has no bearing whatsoever on the assessor's evaluation. The use of the property does. So I know from talking to assessors that if a vacant piece of property isn't farmed for 2 years, the assessor has the ability to assess it differently than agriculture. And from what I've understood from talking to my friends in land use and development, that this piece of property won't even generate new PIN numbers or tax records until they file the Plat Act or officially platted. This is why you saw some subdivisions after 2008 where they had been blasting through roads and moved dirt. If they hadn't filed a Plat Act yet, they were still agriculture. They actually brought that dirt back. Other subdivisions had roads in and already created lots, and those for years created tax bills on those lots that developer was just eating it, waiting for the market to return so they could get out from underneath that debt that they had incurred. So the zoning does not change the tax rate whatsoever at all.
Until he pins it.
There's more than that.
is this,
And to go back to Mr. Dietz's question, the development of this, I've sat on enough of these commissions for long enough. He could have submitted a plan now to us, a piece of paper that showed a road and lots. And it would have meant nothing. because all we are approving is the zoning.
I got it.
I've been on many cases where people showed where buildings would be on their site plan. We can approve a variance from 10 feet and they can put it anywhere along that lot line within 10 feet. And as we've heard earlier, say the sewer and water people come and say, but the septic field is here. And that guy's like, oh, okay, I got to move it back another 100 feet. And therefore, him submitting a preliminary plan to us for Mr. Dietz would mean nothing.
Okay. I
He
was just
can
hoping,
change it all he wants.
just hope for a windfall for the community as far as.
And it may take some time because he's going to follow the market.
Thank you, sir. Would you care to respond?
And tell me if I said anything wrong. You've been in the business.
But I want to just answer your question first. It is by use. So any piece of property that you see that's being farmed, even though it may be zoned residential, what happens is, as long as it's being farmed, it's taxed as farm. Now, once they take it out of farming, and it's 2 years, then they can be taxed as if it was a single-family residential lot. So you're going to find that in all of Will County. So this is not special to that. As far as, Ralph, your questions on this stuff, if I knew what I was going to be doing exactly, I would have presented something. I just don't know. I've had people inquiring from neighbors, a lot of neighbors, and from other sources, and frankly, just don't have an answer for you. The Plat Act, I keep that open. That's kind of like the worst case scenario from the standpoint, well, you do that. I will never be able to landlock a piece of ground. It's just in the ordinances that exist, you can't do that. And so I'm not looking to do that. There will always be access to the back portion of that property. And then when that property is developed, you're going to see a topography showing overland water routes. Someone asked me about overland water routes. Well, we don't have them. We have what they call waterways when you look at a farm, but you don't have overland water routes. They're not defined. That comes when you do all the engineering. That comes when, and engineering right now is extremely expensive, everything. So this is a phase one of doing this process. It's going to grow. You're going to be more involved. You're going to see me much more. You're going to say, I'm tired of seeing your face, is what you're going to finally say. But you're going to love the end result. I'm not about to throw the township that I grew up in, who I've really tried to protect for as long as I can remember. I'm as far as it's my community. And even though I live in Peatone Township now, I did live in Green Garden for 45 years, but I had to move because of the Great Recession. So I had to move to Peatone Township, which I love too. So anyways, that's all I got.
Mr. Clark, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on case ZC 25-046 at all.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to case number ZC-25-046, map amendment number 25-004, move for the approval of a map amendment from A1 to E2.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Roger Bettenhausen,
Yes.
Luis Navarrete,
Yes.
Matthew Gala,
Yes.
Kimberly Mitchell,
Yes.
John Kiefner,
Yes.
Chairman Hugh Stippen.
Yes. Our next case tonight is case number ZC-25-048 and S-25-022. Kelly Krasinski will be our presenter. Good evening, Kelly.
Okay, so this is ZC-25-048. The owner of the parcel is Neil Properties LLC. The applicant is Rahul Patel. The applicant is requesting a special use permit for ancillary liquor service. Here the property is outlined in red. This shows the aerial view of the parcel and the surrounding properties. The subject parcel is located in Homer Township at the intersection of Archer Avenue and Smith Road. The subject property was improved as a commercial strip mall with 4 separate units in 1976. The subject site was previously approved for a special use permit for packaged liquor sales, also in 1976. Since then, the subject unit has continued the use and operated as a liquor store. The applicant is looking at opening a restaurant in the same unit. This is why they are requesting this special use permit to serve liquor at the restaurant. Here, the property is outlined in blue. The subject property is zone C4 and is surrounded by residential and commercial properties. The city of Lockport is located to the west across the street from Smith Road. Here is the plat survey of the property. Currently, the owner does not intend to make any exterior improvements to the site. A building permit is going to be required for the applicant to operate the restaurant and obtain the liquor license. The applicant states that the restaurant will be open Sunday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. The liquor service will be required to comply with the hours of operation that are in the liquor control ordinance. And then the number of parking spaces required for restaurant use is 10 spaces per 1,000 square feet. The applicant has received an amendment to their lease stating that they will have 10 spaces for the restaurant use. Here is a photo looking north along Archer Avenue. Here is looking southeast across from the subject property. This is south from along Archer Avenue. This is looking north along South Smith Road. This is looking at the intersection of Archer and Smith. This is looking at the unit of the proposed restaurant and the location of the existing liquor store. This is looking at the existing parking lot on site. This is looking at the entrance inside the proposed restaurant and existing liquor store. And this is looking at the location of where the proposed restaurant will be in the unit. This is also looking at the existing packaged liquor sales. So a detailed analysis can be found in the staff report, but to summarize, staff finds that the special use will not harm public health or safety if the applicant follows Will County Liquor Control Ordinance. The proposed use is a restaurant, which is a permitted use in the C4 district. The applicant is looking to serve liquor with the restaurant use, which requires a special use permit. The special use will not harm nearby property use or decrease property values, as the addition of liquor service is not expected to disrupt any existing commercial activities. The proposed liquor use will not impact development in the surrounding area, as the site has been a commercial strip mall for decades. And the property has already been fully developed with all the necessary utilities and infrastructure. The applicant will be required to obtain a building permit and meet all commercial building codes and parking requirements for the restaurant. Of the agencies notified, there were no objections received, and staff is recommending approval of the special use permit with 3 conditions. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the agent is also here to answer any questions tonight.
Again, I have no questions for you. Is anyone on the board? Thank you very much. Are there objectors or concerned citizens to this case tonight? There are not, okay. Mr. Patel, are you here? Yes. There's no objectors or concerned citizens, and it's a recommendation of approval. You're welcome to come up and speak if you would like to, or we can just take a vote. It's up to you, sir. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for case number ZC-25-048, request S-25-022, I'll make a motion for approval of a special use permit for ancillary liquor service with 3 conditions.
Second.
I have a motion, second, I have a roll call.
Roger Bettenhausen.
Yes.
Luis Navarrete.
Yes.
Matthew Gugala.
Yes.
Kimberly Mitchell.
Yes.
John Kiefner.
Yes.
Chairman Hugh Stippen.
Yes. You passed, sir. Our next case tonight is a case number ZC-25-052/M-25-006. Map amendment from A1 to I3. And Marguerite Kenny will present this case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this zoning case takes place in DuPage Township. The property is 13141 South High Road in Lockport. The owner is Aaron Holdings LLC, where the breakdown of the ownership is explained in the staff report. The agent is Aramis Spruces of Morris Engineering, and the attorney is Alexander Domanskis of Boodle and Domanskis LLC. And this applicant, it may be familiar to you, came before this commission last year requesting a special use permit for an outdoor storage yard. The county board denied it back in August of last year. So the applicant is now requesting to rezone the parcel to I3, thereby allowing the outdoor storage yard for the vehicles and recreational vehicles, construction and farm related equipment, building materials, things like that, by right on the property. So we do consider this a new request, which is why it's before you within that time frame of less than a year. Okay, so on the screen, I have the aerial for the property. Again, it's located in the southeastern part of DuPage Township. The village of Romeoville is located adjacent to the west and south of the subject property, and the city of Lockport and the village of Lamont are also within a 1.5 mile radius of the property. Lamont actually has jurisdiction over the roadway just north of this property on High Road. Romeoville has jurisdiction over the South High Road just south of the subject property. So it is under the jurisdiction of the village of Romeoville's Public Works Department for the roadway improvements and access to the site. This property, you can see on the screen, is currently unimproved. The former residence was demolished in 2023, along with a lot of, pretty much the majority of the property was covered with trees, so the trees were removed. The property is within the village of Romeoville's facility planning area and is also within the Des Plaines River watershed. This area, per the county's transportation plan, the only big roadway improvements in this area is the widening of Archer Avenue, which is a IDOT transportation need, which is further west, outside of probably 2 miles from the site. Per IDOT, the annual daily traffic on this road, south of the subject property, High Road sees about 150 vehicle trips. North sees about 775 vehicles. 135th Street, also known as Romeo Road, sees 6,900 vehicles. And then New Avenue, which is the road just east or just west of the property, is about 5,500 vehicles. It is important to note that the right-of-way width of High Road in this area is 66 feet, but you can see by the aerials, the actual improved pavement is a lot less. Per GIS measurements, about 20 feet wide in this area. And then there's a 5-ton weight limit just south of the property where Romeoville has jurisdiction, and there's the residential uses to the south. So the Plattus survey is on the screen. You can see that technically High Road does divide the property. So there is a sliver that's on the western side of High Road that is part of the subject property, but the majority of the development, actually all the proposed development, will be on the eastern side of the property. They are proposing to rezone both sides, so the entire parcel. And then the proposed developments have not changed significantly from when they requested their special use. They are proposing to have about 652 parking spots on the property. They are showing it paved, but depending on what they do, it will come down to meeting the county's requirements. We do allow gravel and asphalt grindings as constructed pavement. And that's something we would take into consideration as part of the stormwater detention that's going to be required. And then also landscaping and screening requirements. So the intended use of the property is for outdoor storage of automobiles, other vehicles, not limited to motorcycles, campers, RVs, boats, construction farm equipment, and building materials. The applicant has stated they are not intending semi-trucks, but rezoning to the I-3 district would allow a truck terminal to go in here. The big caveat to the limitations of that type of use for this property is related to the road. If the road is not improved to that, or they cannot get an improved entrance related to that use, they cannot establish that use on site. And it would come down to the road jurisdictions to enforce their weight limits and things like that as well. In terms of the outdoor storage yard, it would be accessible 24/7 through a gated access for customers parking. It would not be open to the general public. It would be for customers who pay a fee for renting the space to be able to store their equipment or vehicles. There's no anticipation of having buildings or employees on the site, so the noise level of the use would be no different than the existing conditions. When you go out there to the site, you do hear the noise from the abutting refineries in the area. So just looking at some photos, this is looking at the subject property from High Road. This is looking north along High Road, and you can see their northern neighbor is ExxonMobil refinery and tank farm. So that's just looking at another photo of it. So this is looking northwest. There are pretty mature trees and shrubs on the eastern side of High Road. And then looking south. Looking southwest from the property. And then looking within the subject property towards the southern neighbors. Again, there's a lot of existing landscaping and trees and shrubs along the property lines. So the criteria by which map amendments are evaluated are on the screen. I'm going to break it down in the next couple slides to go point by point, but the in-depth analysis is always in the staff report for the full analysis. So just looking at the general vicinity, the existing uses, staff used a half-mile radius to take a look at the development in the area based on the current development, and this area already is pretty developed. You have, the city of Lockport, you have Lamont, you have Romeoville all in this area. And if we went further, you would have a lot more different uses coming into play. So a half mile actually was the most representative of what's occurring. So in terms of uses, you have agricultural, residential, and heavy industrial. You also have some open space conservation. So you have the Big Run Golf Club, which is that C6 parcel to the bottom right of the screen. And that's within the village of Romeoville and unincorporatable counties. Zoning districts that reflect that, we have P1, which is a public, private, and land conservation district within Romeoville. We have their M2 as their heavy manufacturing district. R3 is their single-family residential. They have R5, another single-family residential. They have a B3, which is highway regional shopping district, and then a community shopping district in this area. And then unincorporated, you can see by our zoning map, the majority of the screen is that light blue color, which is actually zoned I3. That is our heavy industrial district. We also have some agricultural A1, A2, which is the grandfathered agricultural residential district. And then you can see in the bottom right of the zoning map that we have some single family residential. That being said, the trends in development since 1965, when this parcel was created as an A1 parcel, it has been towards heavy industrial. The expansion of the heavy industrial uses along High Road moved south along High Road, New Avenue, and along the waterways of the Des Plaines, the I&M Canal, and the Sanitary and Ship Canal. So this property immediately to the north was rezoned to I-2 back in 1971. And then when the county comprehensively rezoned all of the properties in Will County, it became I-3 along with the other refinery properties in this area became an I-3 district if it was not already incorporated into a village at that point. The residential construction really occurred southeast along 135th Street within the old Orchard subdivision, which was platted in 1956. And then since 1965, any residential subdivisions were constructed east of this property and along Smith Road, which was actually one of the roads with the last zoning case. So just looking at Romeoville's current zoning map, you can see the subject property outlined in blue and identified by the zoning case number and their existing zoning in the area. In terms of compliance with or the suitability of the property in question, agricultural uses are permitted in the district. So you can do crop farming. So it can be farmland, it could be animal husbandry. You can do agritourism type uses. However, the LISA score indicated that the soils present are not very suitable for farming. The score was actually 134, which placed it in the potential growth and incorporated area category. Outdoor storage for recreational vehicles and equipment either requires rezoning to I-3 where it's permitted by right or pursuing a special use permit. And the applicant was denied when they pursued the special use and retained the A1 designation last year. With regards to the consistency of officially adopted plans in the county, this request does not conform with the county's land resource management plan, mainly because this property would fall within the suburban communities development form. You can see by the map that light yellow area. And freestanding office and industry development concepts are encouraged along arterial roadways and with access to interstate highways and easy access to the main roads that are built for the industrial uses and just moving freight and vehicles and things like that. However, these types of developments also should have a high quality development standard that's similar to an employment campus. So they should be reviewed for land use impacts, mitigation of traffic, stormwater, lighting, fiscal impact, noise, and odor issues. This proposed development for an outdoor storage yard and equipment would not typically be considered high development. It's really just, you put some gravel down and you're parking vehicles and equipment on the site. But the LRMP also allows for industrial uses to be permitted within the suburban development form if the impacts are mitigated to the surrounding areas. So if this outdoor storage yard is not generating a lot of emissions or anything like that, really the vehicles come to the site, they're parked. So they're not generating any type of emissions really from the site. That's not going to be detrimental to the area. Any runoff, if the vehicles are stored for long term, they should not really have any type of fluids in them where they can leak onto the property or cause any type of issue that way. So again, that could be something that may not be significant impacts to the surrounding area just based on the use. With that being said, looking at the future land use plans within the village of Romeoville and Lamont's the next couple slides, I did want to point out that these are not officially adopted Will County plans, but they are relevant because the village of Romeoville is within this area. It's one of the neighbors. Their comprehensive future land use map shows this area to be considered part of their transit-oriented development with the new metro station that's going in at 135th Romeo Road, New Avenue area, which is actually just southwest of this property. And further planned potential open space related to the TOD development concepts are kind of shown in the image to the right. So they are showing some recreational areas just outside the transit-oriented development where that would have a bunch of mixed uses. It would have retail, residential, some commercial, some industrial, things like that. And they're showing more open space. It almost looks like there's going to be a lake or pond in one of their renderings. So with this being in the east side of the TOD sub-area plan, it would be a smaller scale than what they would envision in their actual employment TOD center, which would be your industrial office uses, and it could be heavy industrial. So it'd be a smaller scale than what's existing just immediately north. Within the village of Lamont's future land use plan, it's a similar story. They're showing the property to be an employment center. So again, really focusing on having local employment opportunities, whether it's offices, professional offices, retail in the area, and have it more walkable type of development than just an outdoor storage yard. Regarding agency comments, the NRI report stressed the need for a soil erosion sediment control plan to address the areas that have concentrated in sheet flow conditions. That would be part of their site development permit, which they have submitted. It is still under review pending they get approved for zoning, then they can move forward with getting the permit issued and meeting all the requirements. The EcoCat did identify natural resources in the area, but found that based on what is proposed and what's existing on the property, that adverse effects are unlikely. And then you should all have received 3 separate memos. The Village of Romeoville, Lamont Fire Protection District, and the Village of Lamont all provided comments after the staff report was published. So their letters are attached. And to briefly summarize those memos, Romeoville and Lamont cite their objections and concerns with the proposed rezoning against their comprehensive plans, as well as just the existing construction of High Road is not designed for heavy traffic or industrial uses. And then Lamont Fire Protection District has concerns regarding the access to the site and within the site. Should they have to respond to an emergency situation, they want to make sure they can respond. And then also that the site be developed with compliance to, I believe, the 2015 fire code. With that being said, staff is recommending approval of the rezoning, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
The only question I have in picturing this property is that there going to be a physical separation between the parking areas and the commercial area that they're going to build up? Or is there going to be fencing around the parking area, or?
I mean, with this outdoor storage yard, they will have to screen from all sides. Right now, they are proposing a chain link fence with a lot of shrubs on the exterior. That could change. Basically, to screen, they need some type of solid fence material or a fence with dense landscaping or a combination. So they just basically, you can't see into the site is kind of the key from all sides of the property is what the county's requirements are.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I believe one of the objections is it becoming a truck terminal. And is that a permitted use of right in 9.3?
It would be permitted by right. Some of the cautions with that would be just access to the site. Part of the site development requirements or just accessing the site would be is the access, the entrance from High Road designed appropriately for the use. So that would really come down to the road district taking a look if they had requirements that require a wider apron for a truck use as opposed to just RVs and boats and vehicles coming in. That could be one way to prevent it from going to a truck type use. The other thing is if the roadway is not built to hold trucks, the road conditions, the weights have to be enforced. And that's the road district that has to, enforce their regulations.
That is the Township Road Commissioner. and-
It's actually between the Village of Romeoville south of the property and the Village of Lamont north.
Okay.
It's all to Page Town.
Mhm.
So would the engineering that's approved in-house by the county engineers be any different for a truck terminal than it would this storage lot? Probably not.
Probably not. We still would require screening. On-site detention would still be a valid requirement. Some of the other requirements would probably be resource recovery and energy, since they're designated IEPA inspectors, to make sure that they're complying with EPA requirements in terms of if there's fluid for the truck terminal, that there can be no oil changes or any type of maintenance occurring just on the gravel, it would have to be within a building that had the triple basin to catch everything, things like that. Tires couldn't be kept outdoors.
So that is a hitch. If it became a truck terminal that did any kind of service, a building would have to be constructed on site.
Correct. And if it was unincorporated, it would have to come through us for us to validate that.
Good answer.
I just got one question. This property came before the county board once before, correct?
Yeah, last August.
Okay. Explain, what's the difference between that and this one?
So that one was a special use. With special uses, you can actually condition to minimize or further minimize any potential negative impacts you would see to the use. With a map amendment, it's really just rezoning the underlying zoning district. So they can decide, tomorrow that they don't want to do an outdoor storage yard. It's zoned I3. They can go for some other permitted use. They can do a manufacturing type industrial services general, and that would be permitted by right. So textile manufacturing, metal fabrication can occur from the site. They would just have to come in and get the permits.
So the use of the property hasn't changed. It's just, instead of a special use, it's now a map amendment.
Correct.
The only difference between the previous case and this one.
Correct. And it also opens up to other permitted uses in the I3 district.
Right. And you could possibly state that if this gets approved, municipalities that didn't want to see it possibly become a truck terminal would have preferred the previous county board request be approved because that would have really limited the scope of their operations in the future.
Correct. That was tied to the outdoor storage yard as a special use. Any conditions that were approved as part of that would have been tied to the use.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Are there objectors or concerned citizens to this case? Okay. See at least 2 hands over there, 4 hands. All right, good. May I have the agent or the attorney, presume?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Al Demanskas. I'm the attorney for Aaron Holdings. If I could ask your permission to provide you with additional materials which we had submitted, and I've also provided to Ms. Caldwell of Romeoville, and happy to provide to the people who are going to speak as well.
Well, as long as we have the staff has received them too, so that.
The staff has received it. I provided
Okay,
about 10
yes,
days
you
ago.
may provide this additional material.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Got that?
I'm here tonight with Vitas Arnauskas, who's one of the owners, and he's a business owner in Romeoville. It has been for a number of years. Also with Suzanne Hart, who's a consultant with us. Arimas Pusis is our engineer from Morris Engineering, and also Matt Garland, who's our broker and has done market analysis in terms of why and outdoor storage. What I've provided you with is showing the property's a 20-acre parcel. It's flat. It's a parcel that's never been used as farm, so it's not anything that we're converting into any, converting out of farm use. And it's a property that clearly is not a place that could be a future residential development when you look at what's around it. And if you look at the second page of what I provided, is you've got here showing an aerial that you've got ExxonMobil with big oil tanks just to the south. If you look to the west, you've got the very large Citgo oil refinery facility, as well as railroad tracks. And that is also zoned manufacturing or industrial in Romeoville. You have the property Aaron Holdings, which you've marked as a subject property. The property just directly to the east is also owned by ExxonMobil, which would tie in with their existing uses that in the future they may develop it or come before you, develop it for the same type of uses they already have for the oil tanks. Going to the south, what's marked as P is owned by Citgo, and that has a maintenance building on it of some sort. I can't tell you specifically what it is, but it is not a residential or anything else. It's a maintenance building associated with their facilities. There's a property owned by Mr. Brian Duza. Mr. Brian Duza operates a landscaping business out of that property. And as you can see, a lot of that, you can see the lightness. In that light area, there actually are a lot of landscaping equipment. There are trucks, there's trailers, and a lot of other things. So everything surrounding it is, if you had to pick an ideal place for an outdoor storage, I'd have to say this is about as ideal as can come. Let me review some of the issues as well as some of the comments that have been made. First, there really is substantial demand in the surrounding area for outdoor storage, for parking primarily of residential people who have in subdivisions, have RVs, have boats, have motorcycles, have boats, that right now under existing basically village ordinances, they either can't park in the driveway or if they have to park it in their backyard, they either have to have some kind of access, to get there, which in a lot of cases are paving, and some kind of pad. In fact, one of my employees lives in Naperville, and he has a recreational vehicle, and he had neighbors complaining because he had it outside in the back, and he was, if you want to call it grandfathered in, but he still had to put a pad there, and Naperville wanted him to put actually another driveway to connect to his backyard. So you have a lot of people that have those issues. They can't park in their driveways. They can't put in their backyard, or it ruins their backyard for their children or anything else. And so this is something that really works and is important for the surrounding communities. Lamont, Romeoville, Lockport, Naperville, all these different communities that where the people have those needs. I was just out in Seattle, and in fact, there are a lot of these kind of outdoor storage yards, even in residential areas, and they are not manned by anyone, running them. They have a fence similar to what we're proposing here, and what's contained there: recreational vehicles, of all sorts, trailers that are outdoor, basically residential, where people do hookups, with their cars or their SUVs or their Ford pickups. The property has never been residential. It was residential before with one house with trees on it, and it has never been farmland. As the will, we did go through the Will South Cook soil conservation. Property is not suitable for farming. And in terms of the acreage, it doesn't really fit that well in terms of what else is around there. You have High Road itself, which is 1 mile from 135th to 127th. The jurisdiction to the north is Lamont. And what you have is Citgo has an overhead pipe at 13 feet 3 inches where there are all kinds of signage for trucks, avoid this road, because you can't go under that. My client is involved in the trucking business, but is also an investor. At one point, we did look to see, is it possible to do something for trucking, and decided it was not possible. And that's where Matt Garland, our market analysis, says this is really ideal for an outdoor storage. It does not work for any kind of truck parking. And we even asked Citgo, is it possible if we, did something with either raised your pipe or lowered the roadway? And they said no. And so it's not possible in that direction. Going in the other direction to the south, it's a 5-ton limit road. We can't do anything. So at this point, whether a condition is added or not, this is not suitable for any kind of truck parking or anything else. And once we build this facility, it is being used for outdoor storage. Because of the work that was done previously with the special use, Mr. Sposis and Morris Engineering have substantially completed most of the plan, and that's why we've also provided this, which outlines and shows the perimeter landscaping. I'm really stymied why we need to do perimeter landscaping from oil tanks, but that's part of your ordinance and we will do that. We will also do it, from all sides. We also, because trees were removed when the parcel was cleared, with the house being demolished, we have tree requirements that Will County has on us. And we've gone through that and we've actually set that forth, and you'll see in here the various trees that we're planning to use. And we have very good, perimeter fencing as well as shrubbery. And I've done that, for example, in Homer Glen, with another outdoor storage area that basically we've done arborvitae, under Homer Glen's jurisdiction rather than, Will County's. The basically the traffic effects are fairly minimal when you look at something. If someone brings they go out on a vacation and they put their motor home there, and they only take it out when they need it. And so from those kind of uses, we really don't expect that there's going to be much traffic. And this is road is we're indicated in the staff report. You've got one roadway, New Avenue, that has 5,500 cars a day. This roadway has about 750. And in it, you basically starting from the north, you have Citgo, then you have the oil tanks, then you have this 20-acre parcel, then you have a landscaping business with the house, but the business, and then two other residences all the way to 135th. There's basically almost nothing here in terms of traffic generation, or this could really change much in terms of traffic. There were comments that were submitted, and first there was the Lamont Fire Protection District. We looked at those comments, and those are things that are doable, and we will go through, if approved, we will go through the Will County process, and we certainly can respond to those, and I think we can accommodate all those requests. The Village of Lamont's concerns were about potential, traffic and potential trucking, but at the same time, as I pointed out, the trucking is not something that we're asking for, can do, and once we build it out, it's not going to happen. The Village of Romeoville, I spoke with Ms. Caldwell, who's here, and her concern, one was the truck issue, which, pretty clear we can't do it. And on top of it, our plans are so far along, and our market analysis really shows that this is really an appropriate property for outdoor storage. The other is the concern is that there's no staffing on site and there's no building. But that's the case actually even for indoor self-storage facilities. Most of them very rarely even have any staffing. We will have a gate that will require security entrance. We'll have a fence that, it's not really approachable or someone can really get inside of it. There are other concerns which you may raise, and I'd be happy to respond to those. We request your approval. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Would you take a seat right up at the front table?
I'd be happy to. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Are you going to speak, sir? Or?
Pardon me?
No, I asked you.
I'll wait for it. If there's any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. May I hear from the objectors, please? You can all stay seated until it's your turn. You don't have to stand in line if you don't want to, just.
This can go, you guys.
Okay, did you give one to staff also?
No.
We have to give it to staff first, sir. Yeah.
Wants to see it. Got it. I'd like a copy too. Okay.
We can pass them around if there's a couple of them. Okay.
You have the floor. I suggest, I'm only going to be able to stay awake about 5 more hours tonight, so we need to keep moving.
All right, my name is Dave Wilkes. I live 451 High Road. I'm one of the residents that is on High Road, right down from his property. You can't change this to the zoning for the A3 or I3, whatever he's changing now to. Everything they pulled last year and it all got denied, and you guys all shot it down, was all flat out lies. They lied about the pond that they filled in on there. They lied about the contention pond that they're going to build. There's no way they can catch all the water that comes out of Mobile. They told they're going to put an 8-inch pipe over the Mobiles. The whole back of that property, if you put it on a map, I got pictures of it on there. All that, there's 75 acres that Mobile owns. The backside of it is Lamont's. It's annexed in. It was Mobile's or Citgo's property, and they annexed all that in. All that water goes in that property. After 2 inches of rain, it's going to flood. They don't want to put asphalt down. They want to put grindings down, which is against Romeoville and it's against Lamont's. Romeoville has no jurisdiction over that property or the road. That road is Lamont's road. Lamont flat out said they will not give them a curb cut. And they told them that last year, and they're doing it again, and they just did all this for outside storage, and they don't want outside storage, they want trucking. They own trucking terminals as it is now. They took and put for Lamont's 150th anniversary, they were the biggest donors. It's all in there. If you want to go sheet by it, we can. That's the thing from Lamont they were the biggest contributors, and they're not in Lamont. Okay, the property is Will County, unincorporated Will County. Lamont has jurisdiction over that section of road. Next big issue, if you people do change this, they have that property, which is the very first page, it's for sale. And they got it stated on here for heavy equipment storage, recycling vehicles, construction materials, solar field manufacturing. They were pushing last year and everything else, which is the lie, for outside storage. They don't want outside storage. They want manufacturing. They want, trucking in there. The road ain't rated for it, everything. And there's the pictures in there too. Friday at 4 o'clock in the morning, they dumped a box truck semi at 127th and High Road. Pictures are in there. They closed that road for 4 hours. All them tankers came down my side of the road, which is Romeoville side, which is a 5-ton low limit. I call Romeoville police. They come out. They go, we can't do nothing about it because the other side of the road is Lamont's. They said Lamont's got to do something about it. Romeoville police left, went. Now, all the cars that were coming down the road and everything else, the road was blocked off. The pictures are in there. They had to turn around in the road down there and come back out because they didn't even take and put a police car or anything on 135th Street to stop the cars from coming down because the road was closed. Now, the best thing was that he did dump that semi over at the corner because as you can clearly see on the signs, that 13th Street High Line that is Citgo's, he would have ran into that. Big issue with trucks or anything going down that end of the road. They can't come down the other side of the road because it's a 5-ton low limit. Since them tankers went down there Friday morning, in which George from Romeoville says it's alligator texture on the road, the sides of the road are already starting to crack up from them tankers from one day running down that road. They destroyed that road 3 years ago when Citgo put the High Line in on 127th Street. And they told me, oh, it's only going to be closed for a week. Don't worry about it. Romeoville had to refix our end of the road because they destroyed the road with the tankers running down it. It's only a 5-ton low limit. To change this, you can leave it as A1 agriculture and a couple lies on there. I'll have to straighten you out on this.
Sir, direct it to us, please.
Okay. That building that Citgo's got on there is an EPA site building. It monitors all the pollution and everything else that's right next to this property. Okay, it's not a storage building, yada, yada. It's an EPA monitoring station that Citgo has up there to monitor pollution in the area. That's what it is. Since 127 or 135th Street went to 4 lanes wide, there's been 7 people killed on that road. Big concern of mine because people are getting killed out there. Nobody got killed on that road before. Now you got all this excess traffic and everything else going around. Every road around there all has a load limit on it, except for New Avenue, Smith Road. Those are the only two that don't have load limits, and they start at 5 ton, on the other side is 6 ton, 7 ton, 9 ton. So to even drive trucks, my F-150 pickup weighs 9,000 pounds. If I put 4 people in there and I throw 3 bags of concrete in the back of it, I'm at 10,000 pounds. I'm over the load limit of the road, 5 ton. So it's all lies. You cannot change it. And the biggest thing is, if you do change it, he has this there, and you people can call, find out about it. They want $6 million for the property, is what the real estate's got that up for. He paid 2.7 million for it. So you change the zoning on it, which they're saying it's already zoned for it, which it's not. When he does sell this property, he's gonna make $3 million profit. I don't see that where you guys should change the zoning so this guy can, it's been for sale, and it was for sale when it went up last time when we stopped all this. It was for sale. And the lawyer flat out lied, and he wouldn't answer the question when the lady at the board asked him, is that property for sale? And he wouldn't answer her. And the signs are up right now too, for sale.
None of that has anything to do with whether the zoning is correct or not. That's what we're here to
If
listen to.
you
the
change
zoning.
the zoning, they can put industry and everything in there, trucking, terminal, everything else, and that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for outside storage.
Okay.
You can go from 83 and New Avenue, all the way down New Avenue. It's all outside storage all the way down, and there's signs on every one of them that has space available and everything else. This is not an ideal spot for it. You cannot get in and out. You can't get in and out on the bottom road, and you can see where the tanker rolled over. The Friday before, which Kyle, my other neighbor, will let you know that we had a fire over there. On the north end of the road, Romeo will come down, it was at midnight, with 3 fire trucks, ambulance, everything else past my house, everything else. I roll out there to see what the hell's going on our road. Look on the other side, Lamont's coming up from the south side with their fire truck and everything else. They couldn't get the 2 fire trucks to get around each other because the road's only 16 feet wide from guardrail to end. The road ain't even wide enough to put 2 trucks across it. They couldn't get the fire trucks down there. And Romeoville looked at it and they go, that's not ours, that's Lamont's problem. Lamont looks at it and they go, well, that's unincorporated Will County. They all left. They didn't put the fire out. Will County Sheriff's Police was there. Did nothing. You know, you people, you change this and everything else. Nobody looks at the zoning. Nobody goes and checks if things been changed, if they are changing zoning or whatever else. We called when they filled the pond in. Your compliance department thought I said, well, the pond was on their property. There's nothing we can do about it. They cut all the trees down, 20 acres of trees. Well, it's on their property. There's nothing we can do about it. They clear cut the trees. They knocked the house down. They filled the pond in before they come for zoning. All pre-planned what they wanted to do there. They also owned a property around my house, which goes up to 135th Street. Don't want to let you know they stopped them on that one because the only place they can come in is on High Road and it's 5 ton. Will County DOT, Kyle, flat out told them they can't have a curb cut on 135th Street. Now they came and they wanted to buy my property, which they flat out lied to me because they said they liked my house and everything else. All lies again. They need my property because I would be the first exit way in on the property that's at 135th, which is in Romeoville. This is the property on the other side, which is in unincorporated Will County. Besides that, that's about all I have. If you want to go through these picture by picture, we can.
So thank you. We looked at them, sir. Thank you very much.
But you can see where the semi fell over, the road ain't wide enough, and the main thing is Romeoville doesn't have nothing to say so on that thing. That is Lamont's road. They maintain that end of the road, and they flat out said they're not giving a curb cut.
Thank you.
Before you go, I gotta ask you then. I'm gonna go backwards. The previous zoning request they had, were you opposed to that?
Yes,
And you're aware that if that had been approved, the only thing they could have had,
outside storage.
the only thing,
Yes. And now they're changing it to trucking, which they didn't want outside storage to start with.
No trucking, sir.
But if
They're
that
not
had
gonna
been
approve it to
approved
trucking.
by the county board when it was entered. So now you believe they don't want outdoor storage.
They want trucking. Trucking terminal.
Would you be opposed to it if there was a way that it was limited to outdoor storage with this I3 zoning? Would you still be opposed to
They
it?
can do outside storage, that's fine. But if you change the zoning where they can put anything they want in, they can just turn around and say, whoa, we're gonna put a trucking
That
terminal.
nails it down for me. Thank you. Yep.
That's what they're gonna do. That's what they're
Nope,
trying to
nope,
do.
that- We don't need to go on. That nails it down for me.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
testimony.
Do you need my name and address and
No, just your name, ma'am.
just my name? My name is Sandy Brzezinski. I'm actually a resident in Lockport. I'm also on the board of directors of CARE, an environmental group. The first thing I want to ask, this is a public hearing, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I went online trying to find out information concerning this. I could not find anything. The only thing I found was it stated there was a meeting tonight, and for any information for the public was not to be given any information. Is what I seen online. So then I started searching. I started searching on your website. It said to call your office.
Excuse me. We're not the people you mean to talk to. You mean to talk to the people here.
Right, and I talked to Margie Kenny about getting information, and I asked her if I could get some information. I never got any information. I never got any information until I walked up here tonight. If this is a public hearing, shouldn't this stuff be online so if people can look at it?
Well, I would suggest you propose that to the county board, not to us. We're strictly zoning.
Right, I understand that, but I thought with a public hearing and with this type of thing, whether it's the Will County Board, you guys or whatever, you have to follow certain laws pertaining to public.
I believe there are agendas and minutes from prior meetings posted online.
Right, I was looking for this meeting for tonight, though, your public hearing.
That would have been the agenda.
One or two meetings previous, somebody made a similar statement to what you did.
Okay,
During that meeting,
okay.
did what I despise of people. I got on my phone, I opened my email, I was able to link to a county website, and I was able to find the agenda and link to the specific cases that were attached with that agenda.
Okay,
And I did make a comment to one of the land use personnel, and they said, yes, they are there, but they're not easy to get to.
Right, because I have tried everything,
But
everything.
I would say just let's move forward and follow up with the county later. And if they
Yeah,
need to, make sure that these are available. But from what I've understood, the system is working, the signs are there, people know. And if we can ask Marguerite if she was pinched on time to get you information or whatever. But I do know for a fact that in that instance, in the matter of 5 minutes with my phone, was able to access something on the internet.
Well, you're luckier than I was because I was on there for an hour and a half and I could not find it. Okay, I will
Not
go
always
on it
everybody-
and granted, okay, I will bring this up to somebody, whether it's the Will County Board or somebody else.
That's where it belongs, in the Will County Board.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to go after, I'm not going to go after, Dave brought a lot of points up. The concern for me is many of those points, but also environmental. Are there any environmental impacts? I believe this was possibly brought up by me last year, possibly somebody else, concerning that, because with this operation, it's going to be 24/7, nobody on site. If there is an issue, what about the situation if they have runoff? If they have, where is the enforcement on this property? One of the other major things is infrastructure. Is there any plans for infrastructure right out in front concerning this? You're going for an I3 district. I3 district, according to your information, your zoning is primarily intended to accommodate high-impact industrial uses in areas that will not cause adverse impacts on residential uses. That's your I3 zoning. And what is allowed? There's a whole list of what is allowed under I3. And we've been talking a little bit, truck terminal, intermodal terminal, waste-related use, you know, whether they would go with this or could go with this. But this is what is allowed under that. Whether they keep this, they sell it. This is what is allowed. CCDDs, warehousing, self-service storage facilities, soil storage, recycling, and reuse. A site that accepts soil, stores it for a period of time, and then markets the soil for reuse at another property. Concrete and asphalt recycling, manufacturers, and industrial services, intensive, few example, intensive, manufacturing acetylene, now acid, chlorine, corrosive acid, poisons, explosives. This is from your book, coal products, radioactive materials.
We're familiar with what's there.
The what?
We're familiar with what's there.
Radio, I mean, this is the list that whether they're still there or whatever is, once you zone this I3, this is what would be permitted.
Yes.
And,
It's the most heavily industrial
Right.
district the county.
absolutely, absolutely. There is no way that this should be rezoned to I3. I mean, because they didn't get the special use. Now, my next question is, if this plan is approved with this, I believe it's, 20 acres, can they fulfill this plan without variances? Can they fulfill the plan without variances?
As far as I can tell, they can, yeah.
Asking for any.
So that's a yes. They can fulfill the plan that they have now under the I3 without any variances.
They have not.
They're not
asked
gonna
any-
look for-
The land use staff would be reviewing the plans and know whether or not they're within the
Yeah,
30
well-
feet or the frontage.
So this isn't the question to ask you
Well,
guys.
this is the initial whether or not they can zone it.
Right.
So that's the question right there. Is it legal for them to zone it? Is it allowable to be zoned yet?
Well, and why is it allowable to be zoned? Based on your criteria. You got criteria here that states, staff's professional opinion that the subject property, heavy industrial, is within the existing uses of the area. Okay, because you looked at the industrial uses in the area. You don't look at the other places that they have. You have a park right near there. You have a golf course near there. You have residents maybe not within.
But they have industrial almost surrounding it, ma'am.
Ma'am, sir, within that area,
So
okay.
if you had a park that was surrounded by housing, or golf course, as most are, right? Then it would be illogical to put I3 there. But when you're in I3 or in a surrounding zoning area that is like that, that's a logical place to put it.
That is not a logical place. Not when you have a park near there. The park is right like behind that area. You have the park, you have a golf course, you have,
I didn't see them on the map there, ma'am.
you have, well, she went within a half a mile, so I don't know if they were within a half a mile.
I think we can move forward because I remember the staff report pretty vividly and she did pinpoint the different uses and had the circles of within and which communities also had. So she did bring that up to us.
Yeah.
Right, and that's.
We can move forward.
Right, and that's why absolutely this should not be zoned I3. Not only for that, you have the Long Run Steep Nature Preserve, you have the Isla Cache, which is further from the refinery, and Centennial Trail. You have all these people are there besides, and I know you covered a lot with the traffic. This is an issue. I don't know if any of you guys are over there or drive there. It's horrible over there with the traffic. The one other question is concerning, of course, the environmental impact, any impact to air, water, soil that this possibly could bring. And if you're zoning at I3, absolutely what could happen with this, and infrastructure. Infrastructure is a big, big deal. We have a situation in this county now because infrastructure was never looked at before development. The infrastructure should have been done before development. And I can give you an example, that Route 66 that where they race the cars or whatever, and intermodal out there. Have you been out there? That infrastructure is not, I mean, it is a mess. This county is a mess with trucks and bad planning and how this was laid out. And if you agree to this before infrastructure is taken care of, I mean, it's just, it's backwards. It's backwards thinking, in my opinion. So I would truly ask you not to approve this I3 zoning.
Thank you for your testimony. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Garlitz, and I'm a resident of Joliet. I'm also a member of the CARE organization, which stands for Citizens Against Ruining the Environment. And I'm on the board, and we meet once a month in Lockport. So that's why I'm aware of this. And I just want to say that the I3 designation which could potentially be a truck terminal or intensive manufacturing allowed on the property, that we need to think about that people are living within 1 mile of this property. And we need to, if the property has an I3 designation, that will adversely impact the residents that are living within 1 mile of the property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How many more speakers do we have tonight? Just one? Are you
Yeah, one
speaking
after
now?
myself.
Oh, pardon me.
One after myself.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Thank
Thank
you.
you for letting me talk. My biggest concern is
Please give your name first.
Kyle Opowski. I'm the neighbor to the south at 13247 High Road.
Okay.
My biggest concern, water runoff. I have noticed it over these last couple major storms we got, I flood. Not yet enough for major damage to a house, but I'm getting sick of dealing with excess water that I don't need. Second biggest concern, traffic. Like Dave mentioned, we had a fire last week or 2 weeks ago. 2 fire trucks couldn't get down the same road. That on top of that, I have 3 kids. That's 3 different school buses throughout the day. Mobile, which is to the north, will line that road from basically the subject property all the way to 127th, 1 lane. Coming uphill, blindsided, you can't get around them. And then coming from my property headed north, it's a blind turn. I've almost gotten hit just from people coming around the corner too fast, cutting grass. So my biggest concerns, water, and what are we gonna do about traffic? The road doesn't support the bigger trucks. As Dave mentioned, south of the property, the road's already starting to break up again. That was just redone. And all jurisdiction from the edge of my south edge of my property north is all Lamont's Road. And Lamont has already stated to us multiple times, no curb cut, they cannot have it. So without having an approved curb cut to get into an industrial property, how can you approve it? Those are my biggest concerns. Thank you.
Hey, Kyle, if I may, would you be opposed to just the I3 zoning or the truck terminal or everything?
Trucking in general, just
I don't mean truck terminal, I mean outdoor storage lot. Please forget that I said that.
There's no trucks involved.
Would you be opposed to it as an outdoor storage lot, going backwards to like the previous case or?
I'm opposed to it in the fact of trying to get up and down the road is already enough of a hazard when you have to play oncoming traffic to get.
So any development on that property that created more traffic, you would be opposed to, is what you're saying?
Storage wasn't the issue. It's traffic and safety concern. I have children. People do not care. There's hardly any law enforcement. Like we had said, fire department showed up. Well, it's not us.
Let's
It's not us.
let's stay to what I'm asking though. So if they were let's just, in a hypothetical world, they were specifically asking for only an outdoor storage lot, would you still be opposed to it?
If it was granted into I3 only as outdoor, nothing else.
Okay, yep, that helps me. Thank you. I was gonna see if that's possible. I don't think it is, but I'm gonna see.
Can't do it.
I'm gonna be asking legal counsel to fill in some blanks.
Good
Good evening.
Please give your name first.
Dawn Caldwell, I'm with the Village of Romeoville. And I want to thank the staff. I know there was a lot of discussion about what the staff was provided. Margarita's been very responsive to us in providing us a lot of information, so thank you for that. Very much appreciated. Our biggest concern is the I-3 zoning. It is the most intense industrial usage, including the truck terminal. There was a lot of discussion about the truck terminal. There's no way, if it is provided, the I-3 zoning, to prevent that from happening. I know there was some discussion about enforcement on High Road. That would put it on us to enforce that. And we don't think that's fair that it's put on us, because it is a 5-ton weight limit on the road, which they have addressed, and they said they wouldn't use it. But once it's approved for I-3, it is approved for a truck terminal and the most intense uses. So without providing or limiting that, they would be allowed to do that if the zoning was approved. Secondly, there was also some discussion on the 24-hour operation, and there's no principal building. That is another concern of ours, just for security purposes. And there's no basic facilities. There's no restrooms for anybody to use. There's nothing there. If there's an emergency, again, that would go to, I think, the county, but we would be the first to respond because we're closer. It ultimately should be the county, but because we're closer, we probably would be the ones that were responding. So that is a large concern of ours. And you did mention before, and I think actually in the staff report, it does clearly say that High Road is not designated to accommodate heavy industrial truck traffic. So that being said, if I-3 is approved, those uses would be approved within that. So that is definitely a major concern of ours. Thank you for your time. And we do have a letter on file. I believe it's in your packet. It's dated June 17th with several of our other concerns. So
Yes, thank you.
thank you.
Are there any more concerned citizens or objectors to this case? There are not? Okay. Would you care to respond, sir?
I was going to say, yes, Your Honor. First, one of the questions was if it was the special use and no trucking was allowed. Mr. Wilk, my understanding is you were opposing it last year with the conditions, the special use, which said specifically no trucking allowed. So the same residents were objecting at that point, at that time. Issues of drainage, right now there is a 10-inch Exxon discharge pipe that drains onto this property. In our plans, we have providing for that to go underground. This is a very flat property. And in fact, the entrance and exits is a very flat part of High Road as opposed to other parts. So it's not as difficult to go in and out in terms of that particular property. Yes, the trees were removed during the time it was allowed to be removed. Was it November to April? Yes. Was the time frame? Yes, we are required, and it is part of what we've submitted to you that we will replace those, and they'll be primarily on the perimeter. In terms of I-3, there is a sign saying that it's for sale, but how do you do a market analysis and know how people respond and what they do unless you have that? And that's where Matt Garland's helped us out a lot and says, this really is ideal for outdoor storage, and that's what I'm getting. In terms of my client, Aaron Holdings, we didn't hide where Aaron Holdings has other property on 135th that's totally unrelated to this property. And this is a particular property that, as I said, I don't know how you could find a better property for the uses that we're suggesting. In terms of trucks, it's impossible at this point. I can tell you, as I told you when I first came up, we explored that with Citgo and explicitly said, we're not going to allow you to change where we have our pipe. We're not going to allow you to go make the road smaller. And Romeoville, which our client has got a very substantial facility in, they're not changing their 5 tons either. And in terms of residents, there are literally in that 1 mile, 3 residents. It's primarily industrial. EPA concerns. there's not going to be a building, there's not going to be the noise factor, there shouldn't be, there is, yes, people driving in and out, but it should be fairly limited, and the traffic is fairly limited. And I'm also available to answer any questions. I think I've responded to most. And we also happy to work with, I wasn't here last time, and I'm happy to work with the residents. I'm happy to work with Romeoville, Lockport, and Lamont. Thanks.
There's one thing, one of the things that was brought up was the fact that you're going to have this large number of vehicles parked there with no washroom facilities or anything to take care of any emergencies. And I don't know if you had considered that or your company or not. But whenever you have a large group, especially if you're bringing in campers and things where people have kids with them, these kind of emergencies do end up happening. And what we've found is then the diapers and things get dumped on the side of the road if there's no
And that's,
refuse facility or
yeah.
bathroom facility for.
No, that's a very good point. I don't know the answer to it, and we're going to have to look at that. And in terms of engineering, as I said, we've gone through pretty extensively with the county, and the county has to approve that drainage and other facilities have to be there. But it's a good point. I often look at it when I go traveling. Where do I find the closest washroom?
If you were just in Seattle, you thought.
I was just in
the
Seattle,
homeless
right.
encampments everywhere. I just was there 2 weeks ago, so I know.
Well, I was in the suburbs most of the time, but I didn't see much.
Mr. Damascus, and I ask this since I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but I'm inclined that I will have to vote against the I-3 zoning. Not because I don't think I-3 zoning fits there,
Okay.
but because the residents have told me they're against I-3 zoning, but they've told me they're not really against this yard. I'll give it to you that there is a need for it. It's a good place for it. I think it's a good fit. You've given us a packet that is part of the record. And I'll ask the legal staff to weigh in on this. It does state on the second page, no parking of semi-trucks and trailers and no stacking of containers.
Correct.
That's not legally binding on this request in any way, though, is it?
Given that they're not pursuing a special use, rather they're pursuing a map amendment, I would not be comfortable with conditions.
There is no way for us to legally put a condition.
No.
So technically, going backwards again, if it was agreeable with most people that a storage yard is needed and it's, we'll just say the lesser of two evils, their previous request is what really suited this perfectly.
And what it was is at that point, there was a whole list of conditions that were put in place, and the residents who were objected at that time, and it says specifically what I have stated there.
And I mean, looking in the crystal ball, they didn't realize that, you could come back 8 months later, or however much time it's been, and actually ask for something completely ridiculous. If I understand a county land use request, they could come back with that special use permit, 2 years after they were denied, or 1 year?
1 year, so.
Yeah, and so we were limited in terms of coming back. We could not come back with a special use because we're coming back within the year, and we have the plans essentially done. And the only area, the only zoning district where outdoor storage is allowed as a matter of right is I-3.
That's correct.
So yeah, I did explore I-1 and I-2, and it just wasn't allowable.
Yeah. I guess I'm 50-50 on how I would vote.
Okay.
This goes back to what I said earlier. It doesn't matter truly what you submit to us
Well-
in a case. Once you get the zoning, it's what the zoning dictates.
Except everybody raised their hand and swore, took an oath and swore to tell the truth, so.
Well, let me also say this, you have Romeoville that has a 5-ton limit. You have Lamont that has a Sitco that is absolutely refused to change the height of the 13.3, in terms of semi-trucks or anything or storage going from that direction. There is no other access to that property.
That can all change because I know when they blast a subdivision through a farm field, the
Yeah.
engineers come in and they build that road specifications. If anybody were to purchase this property after it became I-3, they may easily dump $1.5 million into widening that stretch of road from the edge of the Sitco property to their entrance or along their whole frontage. And the village would probably gladly sign off if they put forth all the money. I know this is how it usually works with subdivisions. They look for the developer of that property to build the road to the village's specs, including the water and the sewer installation and things as such. So what you tell me may be in good faith, but I know that the future can definitely change in that case.
I've done zoning in the area for a long time. I started in Lamont in '86, and I've talked with Lamont back in 2023 before the special use application to ask about the whole issue of trucking. I asked about, and I also went to Citgo to ask their cooperation. Neither has any interest, no interest. And Citgo is not going away. In the village of Lamont, I don't think it's going to change. I think Ms. Caldwell's made it pretty clear that this is not changing from a 5-ton road, and that particular road is not suited to be much more than a 5-ton road in best of circumstances. So I mean, I don't see it happening, but I obviously 100 years from now, maybe, but I don't see it. And there's no other access in terms of the way. It's not hilly in front of this, but it's hilly from both ends, the 135th as well as 127th.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
I just one question. You had mentioned there's a 10-inch drainage pipe from ExxonMobil drains onto the.
Drains right onto this
How is
property.
that?
It was the natural flow of the water when they developed.
I don't know. I mean, it didn't make sense to me.
No, I think you were right. You know, it's just when it got developed, I think the farmer's law, you basically sheet the water down the hill, right? So you cannot obstruct or, you know, destroy the Citgo's, whatever they're sheeting to us.
Do me a favor, give your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, Eramos Puches, Morris Engineering.
Thank you.
And basically Citgo, they have their catchment facilities, so it's not that they're just gonna release everything, you know, they have certain things for spill prevention and everything else to address, and they're highly regulated by IPA. So, I mean, there is that pipe that our survey, you know, crew found it. So, and looking at the property, it flows by grade, it goes north to south, but that middle of the property is really flat. So I think we went back to look at the county contracts from 07, from 14, and I believe 21 or 22. And I think all of them, you know, it was just flat land. So the normal slope, you want to have it probably around 2% for the, you know, grass to drain. And we got, you know, I don't know, maybe 0.5% if we're lucky. So any big rain event or any sheet flow would affect that. As far as the stormwater, I think, you know, again, what we've seen in the past, I think resident had a concern here, you know, the immediate neighbor to the south. So if the Citgo is releasing enormous amount of water onto the property, that water is allowed to be bypassed. That's the same Illinois drainage law. I mean, what we actually doing, and I think we did talk about last time, and I think we mentioned the county, we could put a 2-stage restrictor in it. So we actually can utilize our pond in full, let it fill up, and the pond is sized. And I think last time we provided, I think the gallons to the resident, I think you asked about, you know, what we're storing. But, you know, it's a lot of water that we can store and release it, you know, through the restrictor, which is small. I think the neighbors to the south property across the driveway, he's got a 12-inch CMP culvert, I think. 20 inch. Yeah, so they got 20 inches. So our restrictor, I believe, is 6 or 8 inches. So from 8 inch right now, it's a pure bypass flow, whatever comes from our property or from the neighbors. But we would choke it down, and now we're releasing through the 8-inch or 6-inch, whatever it's sized. And the county staff is obviously reviewing that, you know, to make sure we meet all the ordinance. So I think the area will improve for the stormwater aspect.
Satisfied? Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks. Can I iterate something here?
No, sir. One time.
Mr. Chairman, if you like, I'd make a motion so we can discuss it.
Yes, please, make a motion.
VC 25-052, M 25-006. Approval of a map amendment from A1 to I3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Discussion.
Anybody want to discuss?
Discussion?
Well, I think I have a little reservation because of where the roads are 5-ton roads, and I'm zoning something that is potentially giving the ability to have a trucking or industrial, or have a machine shop or whatever, and have those trucks driving down the road. So I'm trying to put that zoning in a place where they couldn't do some of the things that are permitted by the industrial, and that's what's kind of spinning my head a little bit, but that's, so I think I'm going to be a no on it.
I'm a no. I voted no the last time. This is worse, I mean, in retrospect.
Can't remember how I voted last time.
I think I voted no.
Any other comments?
Well, I think I'm leaning towards yes, but I would have to agree with the neighbors. They're definitely gonna get more water. And what you haven't had the misfortune, Roger, is having a farm built next to a subdivision. So the engineers design it, let's just say the swale's there and your neighbor's field is there and it rains hard, his water comes onto yours. When they built that subdivision, that's the natural flow of water. The water is still gonna come to you. But the engineers designed it that they can't release it any faster than it was originally, which sounds good on the surface, except the problem is they can release it longer. So let's say you get a 3-inch rain, it comes from your neighbors for about 4 hours and it quits. But they put in retention and detention, used to get 1 million gallons an hour for 4 hours, and they hold back 100 million gallons. They can release it at the same rate, 1 million gallons per hour. Now, rather than 4 hours of water coming from your neighbor, you get 100 hours of water. And that's what's gonna happen to this other guy. So that pipe is there. Basically, they're just gonna pass that 10 inches of water right through their property and then retain and detain theirs, which will also come at the neighbors downstream, no faster than it did before, but because they're covering 18 acres with gravel, it's going to come for a lot longer after the rain quits. But everything's industrial there. It's a fit for the property. Is it my responsibility to not approve it just because the roads aren't there? I mean, we build subdivisions when the roads aren't there and we all curse at all the traffic and all the red lights. It's happening all over all of Will County now. The infrastructure usually comes after the development.
Yes, as I might remind everybody here, we're here about whether the zoning is proper or not. We don't know what the infrastructure will be. We know, we've heard many suggestions of what it's going to be, both pro and con from the company itself and, or its representatives, and from the people who are here opposing it. But nobody knows at this point. What we know is whether or not it's legal to zone it and whether it's good zoning in the legality.
I think the zoning is probably appropriate, but I do feel for the neighbors that will have to deal with it.
Well, it's obvious that unless there's infrastructure improvements, it can't be a truck terminal because there's no way to get there.
No.
And I would tell you that 13-foot, 3-inch pipe, if you have semis, if that was a truck terminal, that pipe isn't going to last very long. It's going to be.
I'm pretty sure they have a giant barricade in front to protect it. But after that gets hit a few times, they might change that pipe too.
Yeah. But I mean, down the road, I mean, if infrastructure was improved, then it could be a truck terminal at some
Well,
point in time.
you know, minimum, even private roads today that we build, like on a flag lot, have to be 20 feet wide.
Yeah.
Private road. So when you're talking about a 16-foot road, it doesn't equate to even a passable passage.
Right.
So I don't see that that's going to get changed anytime soon, especially if both the village and the township and everybody don't seem to care to change it, you know. Under those circumstances, I don't see that well, we're not going to worry about trucks. You know, everybody seems to have trucks in the back of their mind, but I think that the truck issue is a dead issue. The biggest issue is now at my mind is if somebody gets lost and goes the wrong way and it's got a 13-foot 6 or whatever aerial cable that he's got to worry about, and he's pulling his trailer from the house, his camper, he's liable to have problems.
But as I look at this map, you know, I don't know this Brian D'Souza that owns property right to the south of this property.
Yeah.
If there was some deal made or acquisition And then these holdings, Aaron Holdings owns a property there right off 35th. He could construct his own road
Yeah.
to that property. So I mean, that's an option, and it could be a truck terminal at that point in time. But that's not for us to decide here.
So are we ready to go ahead and take this vote? Everybody agreed? Okay.
Okay. Roger Bettenhausen,
Yes.
Louis Everett,
Yes.
Matthew Gala,
No.
Kim Mitchell,
No.
John Kiefner,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes Tippin,
Yes.
4-2.
Yes.
Well, keep in mind, we are just a recommendation to the county board.
ZC 25 054/M 25 007. And it's a property in Wilmington, split the property in two, and Jesus Preseno is going to present this case. Good evening, Jesus.
Good evening. Yes, I'll be going over zoning case 25054. The owner of the property is Brian Milton. The agent is Melissa Milton. The property owner is requesting a map amendment from A1 to E1 to divide the property into two parcels. Here we have an area view of the subject property outlined in red. The property was a continuous parcel until 2010, when the realignment of Mantina Road basically split the property in half, creating the layout shown on screen here. Mantina Road used to run north of the property to Route 102. The applicant looking to divide the property and create two parcels. By officially dividing the property, the two parcels will no longer meet the minimum requirements of the A1 zoning district. A map amendment is required to make the new parcels conform to the zoning ordinance. Here we have a plat of survey of the property. The plan is to create, as mentioned before, the plan is to create two different parcels. There's a parcel south of Mantino Road and a parcel north of Mantino Road. The parcel north of Mantino Road will be approximately 5.46 acres, and the parcel south will be 6.54 acres. Both will meet the E1 zoning requirements for lot area of lot frontage if the map amendment is approved. Now here we have a few pictures of the property. First, a view looking northwest at the portion of property north of Mantino Road. The property looking southeast at the portion of property south of Mantino Road. View looking west at the intersection of Mantino Road and Route 102. The view looking northeast down Mantino Road. The view looking north at the northeastern portion of the property. The view looking north at the adjacent property. And now looking over our zoning map amendment review criteria. A full analysis can be found in staff report, but to summarize, within a mile radius of the subject property, uses include agricultural and residential uses. Within unincorporated Will County, the Hillview Estate Plan Unit Development is located 1,300 feet east of the subject property. Staff finds that the proposed use is compatible with the existing uses in the area. Staff also finds that the trend development in the general area is towards the state residential. The property immediately east of the subject property was approved for a map amendment from A1 to E1 through zoning case 4300-RM in 1996. And the Hillview State Plan Unit Development was also approved for a map amendment from A1 to E1 through zoning case 4034-RMS in 1994. For agency comments, staff did not receive any comments from the agencies notified. And with that said, staff is recommending approval of the map amendment from A1 to E1, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have no questions. Anyone have any questions?
No questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any objectors or concerned citizens to this case? There do not seem to be. Okay. Is Melissa Milton here? There are no objectors or concerned citizens to this case, and we have a recommendation of approval. You just want us to take a vote, or would you like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, for case number ZC-25-054, request M-25-007, I would like to make a motion for approval of a map amendment from A1 to E1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Roger Bettenhausen,
Yes.
Louis Navarette,
Yes.
Matthew Gala, Kimberly Mitchell,
Yes.
John Kiefner,
Yes.
Chairman Hugh Stippen.
Yes. You're approved.
We needed an easy one. Thank you.
We sure did.
Next case tonight is case number ZC 20-25-050/S-25-024 and V-25-091 and V-25-092. This is to operate a 3.5 megawatt AC solar energy facility, AC solar energy facility. That designation is slightly different. Jesus Preseno is going to present this case also.
Yes. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll be again reviewing zoning case 25050. The owner of the property is Felipe and Juan Resendez. The agent is Jeremy Price, doing business as RPL Solar 17 LLC, and the attorney is Benjamin Jacoby of Polsonelli PC. Here we have an area review of the subject property. Subject property outlined in red. The special use permit will apply to the entire property, which is 21 acres in size. The property is within Creek Township. There is no municipality located within 1.5 mile radius of the subject property. Here we have a zoning map for the property, and as you can see, basically the subject property is surrounded by properties that are zoned A1 agricultural. Here we have a plat of survey of the property. Here we have a screenshot of the existing conditions of the property. This shows the existing drain tiles on the subject property and a small area of wetland on the southwest portion of the property. Here we have an overall site plan. There is approximately an estimated 7,263 panels that will be on site. The access road shown on the site plan is about 15 feet wide. When equipment pattern is proposed, it will be 428 feet from the eastern property line and 557 feet from the nearest home, which is located south of the property. The development will include screening. The south, east, and northern portions of the property will be screened with a combination of newly installed landscaping and existing landscaping that is already on the site. A full review of the proposed landscaping will be done at the time of permitting. The applicant entered an option agreement to purchase a property in 2024. A noise assessment was performed and concluded that noise will comply with the Illinois Pollution Control Board noise standards. A glare study was also performed and concluded that no glare was predicted. Both the noise study and the glare analysis can be found in the staff report. Now going over a few pictures of the property. Here we have the view looking west at the subject property. The view looking southwest at the subject property. The view looking north at the adjacent property. The view looking south down Stony Island Avenue. And the view looking north at the S-curve along Stony Island Avenue. Now going over the application submittals. Red bold is required per Illinois standard requirements, and the red bold is permitted for counties to require. The applicant submitted all the required submittals for this case to proceed to public hearing. The applicant has completed a complete application, which includes the listed documents shown on the screen here. Now going quickly over the special use and review criteria. A full analysis can be found in the staff report, but to summarize, if approved, the solar facility will be required to comply with section 155-9.245 of the Will County zoning ordinance at the time of permitting. Quickly going over the variance standards. These are for the number of required mowings and plant heights. The variance requests were reviewed based on the criteria outlined on the screen. A more detailed analysis can be found in the staff reports. The state encourages commercial solar energy facilities to use pollinator-friendly plant species native to Illinois. For native plant species to grow effectively, they need to grow higher than the permitted 13 inches. The applicant is requesting the variances to allow the native species to propagate effectively. Moving forward with the agency comments, staff did receive comments from the Forest Preserve. That was sent out as a memo, but basically the comments the Forest Preserve had was basically recommending the Sulphur City to include native pollinators, as well as pollinator-friendly practices, planting a native species, and documenting any mortality that can be found on the property. Creek Township submitted comments basically stating their opposition to any further solar development in the area, and their reasons for opposition can also be found in the staff report. And the NRI report for this property gave the property a LISA score of 184 out of 300, placing it in the county areas and productive farmland category. With that said, staff is recommending approval of the special use permit for solar energy facility with the 4 conditions and approval of the variance for maximum ground cover plant heights and the variance for number of required mowings. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Creek Township doesn't want any more solar facilities in their area.
That is correct. That's at least the general.
And yet they have no legal objection to present to us.
Yes, as part of the staff report, I did include, they sent an email to me. It should be as part of the staff report, but they basically stated that any new solar developments they would be opposed to in Creek Township.
But it's not a legal objection,
Correct.
correct? Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Jesus? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any concerned citizens or objectors to this case tonight? Seeing as there's no one left in the hall but us, I don't think so, except for one gentleman who's probably waiting for the very last case. Okay,
Wait, this isn't the last one?
yeah, no, this is just one more case.
What did I lose?
The TUP.
Oh, okay.
There are no objectors here, gentlemen. Do you want to make any presentation or at least give your names, or do you want us to move on?
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the board, staff, good evening. Jeremy Price, Senior Project Developer. Thank you for your time this evening. Different turnout from the last time we were here, so thank you for that. I do have a brief presentation. I think you guys are well-versed in solar. What I would like to say is we've tried to do as much outreach as we can. Jesus, if you wouldn't mind just pulling up this slide with the stars on it for informational purposes, that would be helpful. Thank you. So as you can see, all the stars indicate our attempted outreach or direct outreach with the abutters. The property directly to the west has provided a letter of no objection. We have a letter of support from a Will County business in favor of the project, who was also a Cole City trustee previously. We've had several conversations to the south as well as the east, and then the Will County Forest Preserve owns everything to the north. There are a variety of benefits to this project, tax base, environmental. We will be installing pollinators and using agrivoltaics as requested and per the variances there. At the overall level, it's compliant with the state statute, and we greatly appreciate your approval of this project. So I'm available to answer any questions here. Ben, if there's anything you think we should touch on, let me know. But
I have no questions.
I know.
Anybody at the board have a question? No?
No questions.
What's that?
No question.
Thank you very much, sir.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, if you wish.
Yes.
ZC 25-050. Approval of, S 25-024, approval of special use permit for commercial solar energy facility with the 4 conditions noted by staff in the report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call?
Yes. Roger Bettenhausen.
Yes.
Louis Navarette.
Yes.
Matthew Gala.
Yes.
Kimberly Mitchell.
Yes.
John Kiefner.
Yes.
Chairman Hugh Stippen.
Yes.
Same case ending in 050, variance 25-091. Approval of variance for maximum ground cover plant height from 13 inches to 36 inches.
You skip one. But that's all right.
Don't know if I did or not, but
You said approval.
091, ground plant height from 13 inches to 36 inches. Oh, it's printed differently there. It's in a different order on the second sheet.
Okay.
Yep, that's all it is.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call?
Roger Bettenhausen.
Before I vote on this, I'm done fretting with plant height and types of plants. I mean, anybody that thinks that these facilities a year, 2 years down the road are gonna comply with this, you're delusional. So I don't think it makes any difference whether we vote yes or no on these plant heights and number of mowings. Makes no difference. Yes.
Louis Navarette,
Yes.
Matthew Gala,
Yes.
Kimberly Mitchell,
Yes.
John Kiefner,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes Tippin.
Yes.
ZC 050, variance 25-092, approve a variance for number of required mowings from 5 times to 1 time.
Second.
Roger Bettenhausen,
Yes.
Louis Navarette,
Yes.
Matthew Gala,
Yes.
Kimberly Mitchell,
Yes.
John Kiefner,
Yes.
Chairman Hughes Tippin.
Yes.
Pass.
No sweat, no strain, gentlemen. You didn't need to carry the big box.
You may be right that there's not a mechanism for enforcement, but I hope they prove you wrong. I wanna have faith in humanity, Roger.
I hope the goats work.
I hope the goats work, but these were goats at least.
Yeah. The lambs, probably, you're using sheep instead of goats?
No, they didn't ask for it. They didn't,
Oh, okay.
don't believe goats were any part of their presentation.
I often, just between us, I often wonder, when you're gonna use goats, how do you keep them off the glass? You know, to climb everything, how you gonna keep them off your solar panels?
The razor we would use is already servicing
Okay. Thank you.
Goats are more for woody plant removal. Goats are browsers, sheep are grazers.
Stand and chew on the wire.
Yeah.
Goats are browsers, sheep are grazers.
TUP-25-006. And Marguerite Kenny's gonna look at this special term, TUP for us. Thank you.
Yes, so the last zoning case of the night, our temporary use permit, TUP 25006, is requesting a temporary use permit for a mobile office trailer. The property owner of the owner is Rovanco Piping Systems, where Todd Stonich is agent and president, and also agent for the application. Sean Mann is also one of the agents. I believe Mr. Stonich is here tonight. The address is 20535 Southeast Frontage Road in Joliet. And the purpose of the request is to allow the construction trailer that's currently on the property, since they are building an additional manufacturing building on site, to then be used as a temporary office trailer to displace employees. If you were aware of the news, they had a devastating fire earlier this year in April. And it actually took out their existing manufacturing building. So they're looking to have this as an option for some employees while they're moving into their secondary manufacturing building, which is finishing up construction. So since this is not something the zoning administrator is able to approve, they have to come before you to get the approval for the use.
In this case, does not go forward to the county board.
Correct. This would be a temporary use request. So it would be approved by this commission. On the screen, I have the aerial. This is the current aerial. So you can see that middle segment of the property you'll see in the next slide actually had a building. Now it's demolished. It's just being kind of used for outdoor storage at the moment. But the property is outlined in blue. It's located on the east side of I-55. It's north of Caton Farm. And regarding the fire, they have the white roofed building is that new manufacturing facility. And then the yellow box is where that construction trailer is located. And they would be looking to make that as the temporary mobile office. With that, they have applied for the building permit for that temporary office trailer. And they would be subject to meeting the county's building and zoning regulations regarding that. So again, here we have the image on the left is actually last year's 2024 aerial. And then the image on the right is this year's aerial. So you can see it was a pretty large building that actually was destroyed by the fire. So they are just looking to keep going. They're going to rebuild that building, but in the meantime, they're finding places to put their employees that were working in that building. So the plat of surveys on the screen. Again, just a zoomed in image of the site plan showing where that office trailer is sited in relation to the property. It does meet the setback requirements for the district. And then the top right, you can kind of see it's a little faint, but they are proposing potentially an ADA compliant ramp. Again, just subject to building code requirements. So again, the property zoned I-1, it's surrounded by I-1 properties to the north-south. And then across the I-55 is industrial within the village of Shorewood. And then we have agricultural to the east. So just some photos looking at that office trailer. Looking at the other side. This is looking towards their storage yard area where that building was located. So looking southeast into the site. This is looking north inside the, towards where the former building was. And then looking along the frontage road. And then inside the property on the east side. And then looking at that new building that's finishing up. I believe they are putting a couple more, a mezzanine inside and some other interior modifications currently. And then just looking within the property, this is looking north towards the other structures on the property. So staff is recommending approval of the special use permit, or excuse me, the temporary use permit with 3 conditions. Typically, you know, the applicant's going to need to adhere to the building code requirements, that the temporary use permit meet the health department requirements. And then thirdly, the temporary office must be removed within 14 days of completion of the construction project or upon expiration of the building permit, whichever occurs first. And this would allow them to go through that permitting process without having to worry about after 6 months' time coming before you again to renew this temporary office trailer, should they need that time for the permit.
Is that the standard permit, 180 days?
Typically for a temporary use permit, yes. But in some instances, we do allow longer. Usually it's the batch plans that come before you for the road
Yes.
projects that usually will be a year or 2 if we know that's how long the road project would last. This is thinking it's probably going to be somewhere, 15, 18 months is what they're thinking in terms of rebuilding that building.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any questions, anyone? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion on TUP 25006. I look around and there's only one gentleman here, so we have no objectors or concerned citizens unless he's going to object to his own project. So,
Mr. Chairman, with regard to,
wait, let me
Okay.
just, do you mind if, would you like to speak or do you mind if we just go ahead and vote on this? Okay, thank you.
with regard to TUP 25-006, I move for approval of a temporary use permit for a mobile office trailer.
Second.
With the 3 conditions.
With the 3 conditions.
Second.
You make the second.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion, a second. I have a roll call, please.
Roger Bettenhausen.
Yes.
Louis Navarette.
Yes.
Matthew Gala.
Yes.
Kimberly Mitchell.
Yes.
John Kiefner.
Yes.
Chairman Hugh Stippen.
Yes.
Pass.
All right, you've approved.
Wanting you to get your feet wet, Louis, and second the motion.
Next time.
We're trying to put you in the game. You want a motion to adjourn? I'll make it.
No, not yet.
Yeah, okay.
I have one more announcement and I'm going to ask staff if they have any announcements. Do you staff have any announcements for us? If they do not, then.
The only announcement is just, this is, the WebEx is going to go forward. It's something that the county board office and the county executive's office wished with public hearings occurring at the planning and zoning to offer the discussion to the public to see before land use hears it and county board in terms of the cases.
Thank you. My announcement is the next meeting will be July 15th, 2025. So I will accept the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, a motion, a second. All in favor, signify who's saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? We're adjourned.
Actually, well, it's what, motion to adjourn.